thank you for joining another episode of the Kansas City Commercial Real Estate Market Pulse, sponsored by Midwest Commercial Real Estate Advisors. We are at episode 35, so we are working on climbing up to halfway to 100. Takes a lot of work, so big shout out to the team for making sure that I get scheduled at the right time and I show up at the right place, and we have awesome guests like we do today, and Jenna Scott, who I will introduce here very shortly. A little bit about our team. Our team has been growing. We are based here in Kansas City, Missouri. We work across both state lines. We do all types of commercial real estate in the Kansas City area, and here's the team that backs us up. So if you have interfaced with Midwest Commercial Real Estate Advisors, you definitely talked to Katie Cobb. Nick Morales is doing a lot of work with land and land development. Nathan Roberts is your flex industrial guy in Kansas City. Just a quick side note on that front. We are currently working on just over 400,000 square feet of contractor garages and flex industrial, small bay industrial here in Kansas City. Just such a big tailwind for that asset class. Leasing, sales, anything that you need, pre-construction, design work, give us a ring. Chad Kage's doing all things healthcare, mostly working with doctors, dentists, on their leasing and finding new spaces or expansion. Micah Beebe working on some retail and some multifamily. Mitch Case is our newest broker here at Midwest Commercial Real Estate Advisors, and he has an awesome listing in regards to a skilled nursing facility in Kansas City, Missouri. So that is a project we're working on together. And Derek Schatzer is with a different company, Henry Schein, and they do a lot of sales of dental practices, and when the real estate's involved, Midwest Commercial Real Estate gets involved as well. So if you are a dentist or know someone that is interested in selling their dentist practice, please do reach out. We do have those resources as well. So that rounds out our team. About the show, we have been bringing, and our aim is to continue to bring and be the go-to source for real-time data-driven insights into Kansas City commercial real estate, right, on a weekly basis. So whether you're an investor, a broker, a developer, or you're just curious about commercial real estate or Kansas City, this show is designed to help keep you ahead of the curve. One of my favorite sayings, I don't know who said it, but I love it, is we try to help you remember the future. Think about that for a second. Remember the future. And so we are always bringing on our current listings, any market trends that we're talking about and seeing. And we have expert insights like we do today with Jenna Scott. So let me introduce Jenna. Jenna is the Business Development Officer at the EDC of Kansas City, which is the Kansas City Economic Development Corporation. She works with companies of all sizes to connect them with the resources, the incentives, and workforce solutions needed to thrive here in Kansas City. So Jenna, thank you for being here and welcome to the Kansas City Commercial Real Estate Market Pulse.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to get to connect and share some of these insights that we get to talk about behind closed doors in this room.
Yeah, it's very exciting. And I think this is a very timely conversation for many different reasons. But let's just break this down for the listeners here today. So if folks aren't maybe as familiar with the EDC, can you give us a quick overview of what the Economic Development Corporation in Kansas City does, and just talk about the three different prongs, because I know you've spent a lot of time probably on phone calls with me educating myself, but I think this is so important for people to understand. So break this down for us.
Yeah, so economic development is a little bit confusing to a lot of people. Unless you're in the industry, typically what I hear from somebody is, what is that and what do you do? And there's a couple of reasons that it can be a little confusing. The first reason is economic development looks different within every municipality, within every county. We have state level economic development, and so it's a layered multi-approach. But here at the EDC of Kansas City, Missouri, we really want to take care of businesses of all sizes. And so like you said, we have this three-prong approach. Entrepreneurship is one of those. You can see that there at the bottom. We have a program here called Launch KC that's really for those startup size businesses. We also have a loan corporation, some governmental affair work, and then we have different programs that are there to be, entrepreneurial service organizations and help those growing businesses in their first few years of being a running business. Land development is the next part of us, and that is really where things happen. So those are the people who actually run the incentives, who help do the development of the land that we have here in Kansas City. And we work really closely with them in business development. And so as a business development officer, my job with my 3 other colleagues who do business development with me is really just to be the boots on the ground in Kansas City. So I mentioned before that economic development can be a little different in every city. So we are a quasi-governmental agency, meaning we are not embedded in the city of Kansas City, but we work really closely with the city. Most of the incentive packages that we offer come through the city of Kansas City City Council. And so we're always working with them to make sure that things are built for the community, that work for the community, that then we can take back and say, hey, we need some feedback. But I get the fun job of either attracting new businesses to Kansas City or keeping businesses in Kansas City. So we really want to retain the companies that we have here. We know they're great companies, and we want to attract the new ones to come here and really build Kansas City's ecosystem so that our people have good paying jobs that they love, and they just get to thrive in their lives because they have jobs that support them.
Yeah, well, fantastic. I was on a show the other day, the best ever commercial real estate podcast, and I was talking to my buddy Ash Patel, and he was just like, "Hey, tell me a little bit about Kansas City." And after I was done, he was like, "Well, are you going to be running for mayor here shortly? It sounds like a campaign trail, right?" But I was just listing out projects, jobs, companies, right? Things that are happening, and maybe if we just ask you that question, right, is like, people seem to be flocking towards Kansas City. I mean, population growth is never going to be 2-3%, but every year we seemingly are adding 25, 30,000 people, right? And businesses are coming here. When people say, what's going on in Kansas City and why do people should people be aware of it? Like, how do you respond to that?
Yeah. Funny enough, I was just on a panel on Friday of this called Why Kansas City, Why Now?
There we go.
And so it's so timely that you asked that question. I think Kansas City is really just finding that nexus of a lot of things converging together right now. We're seeing a lot of growth. We're seeing a lot of changes happening to places in Kansas City that have been kind of forgotten and been seen as not impactful for a while. So like the Berkeley Riverfront is obviously a really great example of that, and how it's been growing. There's plenty of buildings, or the West Bottoms is another example of places that have sat kind of empty and really not been. And now they're being created as places of culture and places of connecting and community. So I really think because Kansas City has such a diverse group of industries as far as businesses go, we present a very special use case for businesses looking for Kansas City. We have a workforce. We have a diverse workforce. We have space. We have downtown space. So we really just have this convergence of all the things happening. And then obviously the attention that we've been getting from things coming like the FIFA World Cup, from, all of the great things with the Chiefs and the Royals. It's really it's an invitation for people to come and check us out. And I think they're seeing that invitation and realizing how great it really is.
That's a great answer. I really appreciate all of that insight. I want to just second, because a lot of people have been reaching out to me saying, how you feeling about those Chiefs? And, look, I've got to spend some time with some of the coaches, some of the players. I know from just firsthand experience, the level of professionalism in that organization. And while it's definitely not the start that we would like, I think that the Chiefs embody a lot of what Kansas City is.
Absolutely.
And it's leadership. It is showing up and doing the work on a regular basis. So I am positively, thinking about the Chiefs and being able to kind of turn it around, right? And you never want to bet against some folks that are showing up every single day. So football's hard. The NFL is hard. Teams are good, But like if you think about it, just like the Chiefs are always competing for the best players, for the best coaches, trying to compete to win, it's similar from a city standpoint, right? We're competing for jobs. Not only that, we got to compete with Kansas across the state line, right? I mean, we are on state line. And if I just saw some reporting correctly, it seems like the truce is over, right? And so I was going to ask you about that. How is that impacting kind of your organization's goals and strategies now that seemingly is not being renewed? How does that change, or does it change anything that the EDC is focused on?
I think the overall goal for any organization, especially when we have the by state that we do here in Kansas City, is to make sure that the companies are taken care of and they're happy. And then a rising tide raises all ships, right? As much as, yes, there'll probably be a few companies that switch sides. They'll, it's going to end up coming out in the wash a little bit. And this is, my perspective of how things work. I'm such a collaboration person that I think we can work together and figure out how to best serve those companies so that they do what they need to do best. But there are plenty of projects that we see that are coming over that are maybe on the other side of the state line that will still benefit Kansas City, Missouri itself. So, you have a tech company coming in to the Overland Park area, and while yes, they maybe have their headquarters there, they're still going to have plenty of people who decide to live downtown. They're going to have plenty of people who decide to come downtown for restaurants, for entertainment, for all of the other factors that play into making a city booming and growing. And we're all so close. I mean, you can't go anywhere within Kansas City without just 20 minutes of driving. And if you are, you're, going pretty far. So it's really great that we're such a compact area. And I don't think that the border war stuff is really going to be that large of an effect, because everybody who works in economic development has a partnership background who wants to just make sure the city does a good job of growing and thriving.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for that. I was curious, current event that I want to kind of get some feedback on for sure. So in regards to looking at one of the prongs, one that you focus on the most, right? Business development. So let's make this tangible for folks, right? Let's give them some ideas and some numbers to kind of go back, because I have been trained that if you answer in statistics and not adjectives, you get a lot farther in commercial real estate. So just break down the business development and what you're focused on.
Yeah, so that's a real quick breakdown of some of the things that we have done. I believe these are last year's numbers too, but I think the most impactful one that I really love to focus on is the average salary. When you talk about living wages, when you talk about affordability that Kansas City has, that average salary in the city of Kansas City really makes a difference for our constituents and our citizens to be able to see how they live their lives and what they get to do. But I always tell people as well, I love the business retention and expansion part of my job. I came from a small business and invest in small businesses in ways. I'm a diehard local shopper when I can be, and getting to talk to some of those businesses that, maybe don't have the big capital expenditure numbers, but it's the ecosystem, right? Like, it's not about your home run hits. It's about your base hits too. Yes, we want a home run here or there, but you need a couple other base hits to really keep your team in the game. And those business retention and expansion projects are really what we see making a big impact for us.
Yeah, most definitely. So, like, as a city, right, like for business development and focused on attracting, growing, and retaining businesses, from your experience, like, what is it that attracts businesses? What can the EDC, or what does the EDC do in that regard? And then from a retaining standpoint, because I just don't want to say that, like, hey, well, it's because of the incentive packages. Like, I want to know, right, like, what is it that is attracting and growing and retaining businesses in Kansas City, Missouri, right? Maybe I'll just flop that one over to you.
Yeah. I would love to say that it's the incentives, but it's not always. I kind of give an example of, if you're doing any work inside of your home and you get two bids and one is really high and one is really low, but you really like the person who is maybe the higher bid and you think you're going to get a better quality out of them, you're probably going to go for the higher one, right?
Yeah.
And Kansas City is so good about relationships. And so for the EDC, because we are directly tied to the city of Kansas City, we can talk to city council members. We can talk to, the permitting, the zoning teams. We can really help white glove some projects that come through to be able to show people that this is a partnership. And then the other thing that Kansas City really does way better than a lot of our other similar cities is our people get behind things in such a way that if you come to Kansas City as a business, you will feel supported by the community. I always use the example, and I'm sure you've seen this a few times, Logan, when you travel and you're trying to find your gate and all of a sudden you're walking through and you're like, oh, there's my gate because 8 people in there have on Kansas City stuff,
Yes.
right? We're such a funny group that we wear our own logo on our chest like we are tourists, right? And so when you have that kind of buy-in, when you have that culture of people really caring about their city, and then the heritage and the history that's here of such a diverse group, it really helps companies to understand that not only are we going to support them, not only are we going to partner with them and make sure that their jobs get created, that their projects get done on time, under budget, and really in the way that they thought they were going to get done, but we also have this community that people just feel at home because there's so many different suburbs in Kansas City that everybody has something for themselves here.
Yeah, great answer. Great answer. Shout out to More Milo for being here. Valuable session. Partnerships are crucial for connecting talent with opportunities. So thank you for that comment, More. We appreciate that. Anybody else has questions for Jenna or myself, make sure to drop them into the chat. And I think that's important as you are, we have a national audience here. So thinking about how to interact and understanding what your local EDC, ADC is actually doing. Drop those questions here as well for us. Okay, so moving on to the land development side of things, right? And this is a space that I play in quite a bit. Talk to us a little bit about that role with the EDC.
Yeah. So really, when we talk about the ecosystem that is economic development, I was saying that we have both entrepreneurship, we have the land development group, and then we have that business development group. My job as business development is to really just be that I got a guy person. And typically the land development people are the I got a guy person for people. They're the ones who really help to activate those incentives to help people figure out which incentive is going to be the most lucrative for them, the easiest to get through and meet the needs of that partner. So you can see those total investments there for those land development projects, and then the pipelines that are coming in. That includes 5 or 6 different incentives that we can offer, but it's all a lever system for that group. It's what works for them. How do we make sure that the city is still getting the taxes that it needs, while also increasing the jobs and having people places to work that they thrive in, and then being able to make sure that everything is taken care of top to bottom. And my job with the land development group is to really just be the project manager to help them out, to make sure that people are getting the paperwork they need in, making sure that all the pieces are made easily, and then making sure that they, at the end, they get the certificates they need and everything is taken care of.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's so good to have both of these components, I think, in the third one, entrepreneurship, that we're going to talk about here shortly, together, right? Because they do go hand in hand, right? I mean, there's a lot of businesses that might say, hey, hey, we would love to relocate to Kansas City, but here's our needs, and we need these things. And now the EDC can say, I got a guy or gal that can take care of that, right? I think that's really important. So love that component of that for sure. So entrepreneurship is something that is really near and dear to my heart, as I was fired from my last W-2 job about 9 or 10 years ago and have been on my own entrepreneurship, journey ever since. But, I think that what I loved, and I was part of the Startup Village here in Kansas City, which was a really cool initiative with Google Fiber and things like that. But sometimes I hear Kansas City is the Silicon Prairie. Right. And so it's like, I wonder why, some of those businesses and startups, and we've had some very successful businesses and startups, in our ecosystem here continue to graduate, get acquired or whatnot. Talk to us a little bit about the EDC's thought process around how to foster entrepreneurship and small businesses. That's such an important part of the community.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the start of every community. It's what most people see, like yourself. A lot of people are, quote, unemployable because they've had a taste of entrepreneurship and they know that they can never go back. And those are some of the best communities to be involved in. And I think what Kansas City does really well is we have a lot of ESOs here in Kansas City. So those entrepreneurial service organizations that can assist in a lot of different varieties of area, whether that be Launch KC based here in the EDC, where, we put out the new application just not 2 weeks ago for people to sign up if they are interested in applying for Launch KC. And then we have things like Kiva grants. We have an incredible community down at the Keystone Innovation Labs. We have these beautiful Porterhouse is another great one. We have all these different groups that really just want to help companies get their start, because starting a business isn't easy. You know that more than anybody, right? You don't know what you don't know. And those groups are so good about helping to make sure that you have an understanding. You maybe have a mentorship program. Hemp is another great group here in Kansas City. We have so many ESOs that are willing to help those entrepreneurs kind of get their start, figure out what they want to do, and then figure out what's next for them.
Yeah.
I think the one thing we can do as a group is to really make sure that people know where to go. I think there's so much information sometimes that people don't really know where to start, because it can be a little overwhelming, especially when you're just trying to run a business and you traded in your W-2 40 hours for 70 hours a week that you didn't know was going to happen. And so really just helping those people. And I think that's what the EDC does well, is if we don't have something for you, I try really hard, my team tries really hard to say, wow, we don't have anything here, you should talk to X person, you should go to this place, KC Source Link and things like that, where we can really just, each individual person has a different need. And while we may be perfect, we don't have that need for them. So we got to make sure that we have easy communications and helping people to find the right spot.
Yeah, a couple things I just want to point out here. Startups funded since 2015 for the last 10 years, over 122 startups funded. And in the last 12 months alone, 15 of those. Even more interesting and cool, in my opinion, is the 70%, which is the percentage of women or minority founders funded, right? Yeah. And again, you had mentioned diversity, and you had mentioned, the ability for everyone to have a place in Kansas City. Just love to see those figures as well. So social entrepreneurship being something I'm also very passionate about. 28 social venture studios and total companies, right? It's just like really cool, meaningful partnerships that are being made on the entrepreneurship side as well. So thank you for detailing that as well. I mean, this is one thing I have been speaking about, harping on a lot lately, is yes, real estate is important with the location. Everybody has heard that. But I did hear someone the other day say, almost as important as jobs. People need to have the funds to live in the properties, to work in the businesses that, and fulfill those properties on the commercial side as well, right? So when we think about jobs, I think many people don't really immediately think about commercial real estate, but I do think they should. So in your opinion, how do those two connect?
Yeah. So for those who don't know, I've only been in economic development since December of last year. And I was very fortunate that the person who hired me gave me an understanding of economic development from a holistic standpoint. And so when you think about communities, what typically happens is a new development comes in and then creates these jobs. And then once people are traveling into work, they want to be closer to their job, because when we're looking for a new home, what do? How far is my commute? How far do I have to travel? And then once you're around that business that you're traveling to on a day-to-day basis, then we can create density, right? Mm-hmm. So we have these people who are traveling probably the same path every day, or they're going to and from work. And then you can start talking about some of those commercial spaces where, is it retail? Is it restaurants? Is it, places that people can stop along their way? And then before you know it, that one business that maybe felt like it was way out there on its own now has a community based around it. And then we can, talk to you guys and our, Midwest CRE advisors, and even in some of our other brokers, and say, what else can we put here to serve this community that they maybe don't know that they need, but that they don't know they want, but they need? What else can we do to build this community and help it to thrive?
Yeah, most definitely. Absolutely. I think that, I have been watching some things down south in Kansas City on the industrial side, and some expansions as well. I mean, those are just a few examples of where job creation directly translates into commercial real estate growth. Are there any just of recent, since December, when you've been on the team, that kind of stand out to you, where job creation was like directly translated into commercial real estate growth, or vice versa?
Plenty of examples of that when it happens, and that corridor that you're talking about is a great example. The Blue River corridor,
yes.
The new Goodwill building that just got put out on Bannister Road is a wonderful explanation of that. Even we just finished closing a project with Behavioral Health Allies, who is creating jobs in the health sector and really changing that whole neighborhood because there are more people traveling to that location. But anything that has been popped up lately, people may not notice it, but I've been told I'm in the business of things that just happen. And that's what people don't understand about economic development is all of a sudden you're noticing that there's 17 things on a street that there used to be one. And
right.
that catalyst is typically that development project that was attracted or retained in Kansas City. And all of a sudden now you've got density pulling up around it. So it's really cool to see how some of those new places have created that. And that's why we love the network that we get to work with you guys and our brokers and people that we get to talk to of like, okay, now we have this building here. Now what is next and how do we create those next phases?
Hey, I got a kind of off the cuff question for you.
Yes.
When you're dealing with new businesses thinking about relocating to Kansas City, what other cities are we competing with? I'm just really curious, and not just the state line, but like,
Yeah.
are we competing with Omaha? Is it Des Moines? Is it somewhere in Arkansas? Is it Illinois? Like, I'm just really curious on who is Kansas City competing against for the jobs and the new businesses?
Yes, is the answer to your question. When you look at the Midwest, there's plenty of cities that are similar to us that have a lot of overlap. Some of the ones that you mentioned, Des Moines is always a big one. It depends upon the industry. I've seen a lot of overlap in Ohio. So
Okay,
whether
yeah.
that be Cleveland, Cincinnati, kind of the similar. We actually had a trip that our president, Tracy Lewis, went on not too long ago with the chamber to go visit Cleveland. And it's really got an overlap. And so there's a lot of similarities. But again, what I think Kansas City does better than most of those other cities is we have the diversity of industry that we don't have to pigeonhole ourselves into one area, right? So funny enough, we were just in Detroit for an International Economic Development Conference. And Detroit is a great example of a city that maybe pigeonholed themselves a little bit for a while. They got so deep into that manufacturing world, and then they've done an incredible job. If you haven't been to Detroit recently, or you haven't checked out how Detroit has changed, they're a great example of how they used economic development and they use public and private funding and partnership to be able to completely change the way that city is looking. And what they did is they're still in that same industry, but they have created subsets of that industry that don't have the same fluctuations of each other. And I think that's what Kansas City does really well. So we have a lot of manufacturing. We have a lot of technology. Like you said, we got Silicon Valley right here because we have the Silicon Plains, and we got chosen for some of those projects early on, like the Google Fiber stuff.
That's right.
There was a reason for that. And so now we're taking all of those pieces of, okay, we have this industry here, we have this one there. And that's, I think, the one deciding factor that we have over a lot of those cities that we compete with.
Yeah, most definitely. And I also will say that, from a commercial real estate standpoint, one thing that I'm tracking diligently is that over 11,000 people a day in the United States are turning 60 or older, right? And so this ability to have major healthcare, as well as these communities that are, transitioning from independent living to assisted living to skilled nursing facilities around the area. I think that's a really interesting trend to kind of continue to look at. Additionally, from the other trend that I do see is a lot of these kind of suburban neighborhoods, which is like suburban urban. So, Lee Summit could be a good example of what's going on at New Longview Lake, right? Where you have businesses, you have the ability to own or rent. It's very walkable. I think Kansas City's done a really good job in regards to bringing those kind of unique neighborhoods into the area, which that attracts jobs, attracts people, and a lot of demand and development. I mean, look at the Northland. I mean, that place is just blowing up. I mean, Eastern Jackson County, the same way, right? Southern Jackson County, same way, Even if we continue to go out, this is out of Kansas City, Missouri, but, if we just go a little bit farther down to Cass County, and Belton, and Raymore, I mean, wow, it's just really interesting to kind of see all these different little pockets that kind of work within Kansas City. Now, I remember us talking, and you had said there was a number of, I can't remember the actual number of different municipalities that make up the Kansas City Metropolitan Statistical Area. That's always hard to say. MSA, I like to abbreviate. But how many of those municipalities are in Kansas City, Missouri? Because, people are like, hey, is Gladstone a part of Kansas City? Is, Belton? What is Kansas City? Help me understand that.
So if we are talking about actually Kansas City, Missouri, there are a lot of really close cities that are technically close by. So Grandview is an exact example of that. Technically not Kansas City. And if you actually look at the map of where Kansas City is outlined, it does not fall into that. But if we're talking about our county area and we talk about Kansas City as a region, so we partner really closely with the KC EDC. And, we're kind of talking about this Kansas, Missouri side we have, but the KC EDC helps with 18 counties in the city of Kansas City and Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas. So there's a lot of options here in Kansas City. And there's a lot of municipalities that are fantastic and close enough. And, if I meet somebody who doesn't necessarily fall into Kansas City, Missouri, I love getting to learn about the place that they are. Even if we're talking about some really cool developments, there's amazing things happening in KCK. There's amazing things happening in, like you said, Belton. There's amazing things happening all around us. And because we're so centralized, we all benefit from that.
That's true. Yeah. And guess what? Most of them work in Kansas City, Missouri. So that's just the way that goes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Still much the largest city by and far in the MSA. So we talked about some case studies and some success stories. So I do want to kind of get to the future growth of Kansas City, right? Because I get asked the question a lot, like, hey, man, Kansas City is kind of like Denver 10 years ago. And then people have been saying that for like 5 or 6 years. And I'm like, well, first off, we have not the same climate at all. Second off, we have no mountains except for Wyandotte County State Park that I just ran 30 plus miles at. It felt like I was running up a mountain. So I don't really position ourselves like, Colorado or Denver or anything like that. But we do have a lot going on as a city and a lot of growth. But in your experience and just in your opinion, how is the Kansas City region positioned for growth? What is the future for Kansas City as you see it from the EDC standpoint?
Yeah, I think the cool thing about where Kansas City is right now, like I was saying earlier, is we're kind of at that nexus. When I first started, I kind of got to thinking and talking to some of my leadership, and I genuinely think that this is Kansas City's golden era that we're walking into. I think that we have a very set amount of time here that we're going to be able to really seize the moment. And not that after that time, Kansas City is going to fall off by any means, but where we're really going to see exponential growth that's going to, double in size and can be really beneficial for us. I think the one thing that Kansas City has done a really good job at is staying really consistent. And I think sometimes we have to push people just a little farther to be able to realize some of that growth, right? Midwesterners typically love to just stay comfortable. And I think Kansas City has positioned itself to grow more by showing what we're capable of. We consistently hit above our weight. When we have companies come in and see what Kansas City is, getting people here to show them what we offer is what really makes all the difference. Kansas City is a lifestyle. We have a lot of things that other cities don't necessarily have. We have arts, we have food, we have cultures, we have blending of multiple cultures and, great examples of cool builds, cool places to go. We have that family values thing. We have your neighbor who will wave to you whenever they leave the driveway. It's a community, but it's so positioned because of that, that I think we're going to see a really great next 25 to 30 years of what Kansas City can come up with.
All right. So playing devil's advocate here, if somebody's listening in from Des Moines or Omaha or Lincoln or Northwest Arkansas or just wherever, right? Denver. We've talked a lot about the great things about Kansas City. Where can we get better as a city? Where are opportunities to overcome some challenges that you see?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that I just said is that Kansas City's done a really good job of staying pretty consistent for a long time. And I think in some ways we can be a little shy to take the big swing that we might strike out. And I think this is the perfect time for Kansas City to start swinging for the fences a little bit more than they maybe would, just to really see what we're truly capable of and push those boundaries. I think we can always work on taking care of our people a little more, working on those communities that have maybe not been invested in it as much, making sure that this isn't just a, central Kansas City growth, that this is north, south, east, and west. And we do that through being intentional. We pay attention to what the communities need, not what they say they want. We make sure that it is a holistic view, not just, placing this business because that's what they asked for, but making sure that we're attracting companies to those places, which is why we have the incentives that we have set up the way we do, to make sure that we attract people to these places that are fantastic places, but maybe don't get the same amount of travel as the downtown corridor does. So I think that's where we really focus in on, is making sure that we spread the wealth. We make sure that our community is taken care of as a whole, and we start swinging for the fences.
Love that. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Are you ready, Jenna, for the quick takes? Are you sure? Let's get the drum rolls going here. Let's see if
I'm ready. All right. So, favorite book.
All right. Your favorite book.
Yes. Favorite book. I'm an avid reader. Logan and I kind of nerded out on this when we first started chatting. So this is hard, but I think my favorite book is a book called Outwitting the Devil.
Oh, wow. Napoleon Hill.
You ever read that one? So what I love about this book is that it was written in like 1914. It is actually a book that was the author's wife wouldn't let him release because it was so controversial during the time that he was in. Napoleon Hill, I believe, is who was the author of it.
Yeah, that's right.
And he didn't release it until after he had passed away. His wife released it for him. And it talks a lot about the things that we struggle with right now as individuals, right? We, as a community, we're still talking about the same things. And I love this book because it just reinforces that we as people kind of go through these cycles, and we got to learn how to break through them and push our boundaries.
Great. Nobody has mentioned Outwitting the Devil except for you. Just for everybody's knowledge, it's the same author of Think and Grow Rich, one of my favorite books, if not my favorite book of all time, but much less known is Outwitting the Devil. I have read it. I love it. It is him interviewing and talking with the devil on a regular basis. It is so unique, so interesting, and the backstory is even cooler to figure out. So great recommendation there, Jenna. Okay, just your best piece of advice. This could be for people working within the industry, or just a piece of advice that you have heard over the years that you'd like to bestow upon the listeners today.
Advice is hard because it depends upon your situation for me. But I think the one thing that I've had to learn, and if you guys haven't picked this up yet, I'm slightly extroverted, just slightly, but just to listen to people and truly listen. That's one of the things that's served me the best in this role, is to really connect with some of those business owners, and for them to feel like somebody cares about them is one of the most impactful pieces. And then just being willing to connect people with no thought of a return. Like I just want good things to happen to everybody. And that comes back to you in tenfold when you do it with a place of intention and care.
Fantastic. Love that. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, right? So let's not forget it. All right, maybe a trend that you're seeing in economic development right now. You were just at the national conference, right? So what's a trend that people are not watching right now? What was the hot topic at the conference?
Funny enough, because this industry is so multifaceted and has so many pieces to it, the trend that we heard a lot was connecting with partnerships makes all the difference. A lot of the times we'll have incentives, we have these things, but it's not the incentive that makes the deal. It's how are we going to use the community, the city, all the pieces that go together to be able to make sure that the companies are taken care of. And then an interesting trend that is more on the technical side of things is really just seeing what's happening with utility usage and energy sourcing here in the next 5 to 10 years. Previously, economic development didn't really see huge loads, and it was never a question of can we supply the amount of energy needed to run this business. And now we have companies coming in who are asking for the same amount of energy that it takes to run a nuclear power plant. So there's a big trend in how we make sure we get ahead of that for companies. How do we make sure that if we have more data centers, if we have more, infrastructure and technology coming here, how do we make sure that they're taken care of and we can get them quickly taken care of by the time they're ready to start producing?
Yeah, most definitely. That's something a lot of cities are looking
Yeah.
into right now.
Yeah.
All right, this question is really vague, so I'm not going to ask this one, what's next for Jenna? But I am going to ask you, if you are sitting here at this time next year, and it was the best year ever for the Kansas City EDC and for Jenna, what has happened in that 12-month period?
If I'm sitting here in 12 months, the EDC Kansas City has thrived during the World Cup. And we are currently working on the lasting legacy impacts of the World Cup. The World Cup is going to be fantastic. We're so excited to have them here. We're so excited for all of the tourism and all that's going to come in. But I think Kansas City and economic development specifically is really going to need to focus in on how we turn this into a benefit for the city long term. What we do with the companies that come to visits, whether they be national, international, or people just from the region. How do we make sure that people want to come back? How do we make sure that we turn opportunity into jobs? How do we make sure that we continue to extend the invitation to people to not only come to visit Kansas City, but to come to return, to come to build a business, and to come to build their lives here?
Fantastic. All right, Jenna, you've given us so much information and knowledge. If somebody's listening in today and said, wow, well, I'm a business owner in Kansas City or thinking about relocating to Kansas City or starting a business, where can they find you? How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so my email is really simple. It's just jscott@edckc.com. They can find me on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with anybody there. We also have a normal line. Our website is a fantastic place to start looking through some resources. It's a beautiful website, so check it out, ask some questions, and then reach out.
Absolutely. I'm loving the little new applause and stuff that I have found today. So just giving you all kinds of fun sound effects for today. We are getting more and more technically sound over here at Midwest Commercial Real Estate Advisors, utilizing all the technology at our resources. Jenna, thank you so much for being here today. If you guys can't, for some reason, get a hold of Jenna, just send me a message and I will connect you guys via email. Thank you for everything that you do, your enthusiasm, your honesty and transparency and willingness to continue to help Kansas City thrive. It is people like you that continue to drive the economy here in Kansas City for the future, which then I get to directly benefit from. So keep up the great work, you and the organization at the EDC. So thank you for being here. And thank you guys for tuning in today for another episode of the Kansas City Commercial Real Estate Market Pulse. If you're interested in getting started or you're looking at selling, refinancing, or buying a property, maybe even leasing a property here in Kansas City, here's how you can get in touch with us. www.mwcreadvisors.com. You can find us on LinkedIn. We are on all the podcast platforms. We'd love for you to leave a review. I'm not sure anybody has left a review, but maybe if you could, you'd be the first one to leave a review. And I'm not going to ask for a 5-star. I'm asking for whatever you think we are rated. So how we can get better is something that we are focused on a regular basis. So thanks for being here. Thanks for tuning in. We very much appreciate that. And we'll see you again next week. Jenna, thanks again for being here.
Thanks, Logan.
Oh, I want to say one last thing. I'm going to give Jay a shout out real quick because I missed this comment. Jay, first off, thank you for tuning in to today's show. We appreciate you as well. And thank you for showing up to the Midwest Commercial Real Estate first inaugural invitational golf tournament on Monday. It was great to see you. So continue to show up and add the comments. You will get shout outs here on the Midwest Commercial Real Estate Market Pulse. So thanks for being here. We'll see you again next week.